we had several questions here that I'll put together. In general, what are your thoughts? Why, in your opinion, has the Common Core created such a fervor? And what efforts have you made to, or will you make to see that East Aurora specifically is implementing the Common Core and having success for their students with the Common Core? We'll start this question with William Kane.
With the Common Core, I opted my kids out of the testing. I believe in the Common Core. I believe that we should have a national standard. I believe that standard has been implemented extraordinarily badly in New York State, especially when it comes to the testing. The National Education Foundation can't decide what questions to put on the test. So how can you have a valid test if, in fact, they can't even decide what questions are going to be on it? And if so, how can you teach to it? The second thing is the tests are super secret. The tests are taken, and 6-8 months down the road, you'll get the results of the test where a student has a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. A 3 or 4 being a passing, a 2 being borderline, and 1 needs help. Doesn't say where they needed the help, just said that they need the help, because you don't have the results of what areas those kids failed in. So I believe that we should have a national education standard in a Common Core, but I don't believe in the testing currently.
Well, Common Core standards and testing in general. Let me talk about testing first. It's my opinion that the state of New York is obsessed with standardized testing. The commissioner, the governor, and just about everybody in Albany is in my view, putting a misguided emphasis on standardized testing. Standardized testing has always been useful. We've had standardized testing in the schools for as long as I can remember, and I've been doing this for 40 years. So the standardized tests are useful for some things, but they've made them way beyond what they were ever intended to do. The notion of using standardized tests to make important decisions about children's lives or teachers' jobs makes no sense to me whatsoever. Now, the Common Core, however, makes a lot of sense to me. I've studied it. I've been in classrooms where teachers were using the Common Core standards, and let me tell you, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Concentrating on improving literacy, mathematical literacy, language literacy is a good thing.
If you think about the Common Core, it's important to understand where it came from. Common Core came from the fact that many states in our country have horrible public education systems. New York is not one of them. A lot of the Northeast are not that way. But some states in this country have very poor education offered to the public children. And that's where it came from. It's a statewide effort to try to standardize minimum standards of education. As Dan said, there's a lot of great things in the Common Core, and I'm a big fan of it. But it's not a huge leap forward for us. It's just a little incremental improvement, that the kind of stuff that would have happened naturally at the state level without federal intervention. I'm not a fan of a lot of the other things that are getting mixed together with the Common Core. There's a lot of talk about statewide testing, teacher evaluations, and how they're impacted by the tests, and lack of local control. Those are all separate issues that need to be talked about separately from the Common Core. They're totally different. And I'd be happy to talk about them more in further questions, but I think this question is on the Common Core, which I think is good. Thank you.
Yeah, again, I would have to agree. The Common Core did nothing more than to just raise the standards. Now, you can argue that New York State has this habit of lowering the standards just so they can raise them again a few years later to show that we're improving. But the Common Core raised the standards. It did bring some very fundamental things to lower grade levels, which is always good. Who could argue with wanting our kids to give them a higher bar to achieve? Why the fervor? I mean, we addressed why the fervor in a board meeting. The fervor around Common Core is because it inappropriately linked the results of the test to teacher evaluations and administrator evaluations. I mean, that was ridiculous. There's just no bearing that you could draw that could say that this is somehow how I'm going to evaluate a teacher or administrator. We as a board, took steps to pass a resolution to specifically denounce that tie to the APPR, and I firmly believe that all of the fervor around the Common Core will go away once that's been lifted.
As has already been said by many of the gentlemen, Common Core is a good thing. There was a lot of change this year. The Regents reform agenda is huge, and there was a lot of stuff baked into that. Part of it is the Common Core, which is the good part. The other parts, including everybody's most feared data collection, were in the mix, along with the assessments, bar type of exams for the future educators that are coming out now. There was just a lot too much too soon. So while the standards are phenomenal, it's been a tough bill to swallow for everyone. But thanks to our administrators and our incredibly dedicated teachers, we've done great rolling out the Common Core. If the state had done it differently and phased it in, we could have done even better. But we've done an amazing job, and as Dan said, it's amazing to see what the kids are doing in the classroom. Certainly not a bad thing to see the kids performing to a higher level. And I think that the worst of it is behind us. If we continue to support our teachers and administrators, we'll continue to see great things from our students.